Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to the final game week of the season, Game Week 38. My name is Fergi, and I am here with the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in double Game Week 37?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. A green. I think my fourth in a row. So
Go off.
a decent bench boost. There were quite a few people who bench boosted and managed to get a red arrow. So I wasn't one of those. And feels okay. I think we'll rate it from a spaffometer point of view in a minute. But it feels okay. 137 points.
Nice.
No hits. Feels a lot of points, but I was blocked on the hero of the game week, Josko Gvardiol. A little bit of a story to tell about that one. It was my birthday on the weekend, and I decided to switch off the football for a bit. Went out on the golf course on Saturday afternoon when most of the games are going on. You know, when thinking about all my transfers, what to make, I only really had Ben Davies to deal with. And didn't have much money in the bank, so I had to buy a cheap defender. So I thought about Dunk, thought about Veltman, who subsequently scored, I think, in that first game against Newcastle. Thought about Wan-Bissaka, but didn't fancy the United defence like anybody else. But ended up going with Van der Ven of Tottenham as my transfer in for Davies. Never expected him to score, just expected him to play both games, really, as a reliable, bench boost two-pointer. I'm on the golf course. I'm playing with another Spurs fan, and I couldn't resist looking at my phone as we were going around. And as we were going around, I was already, I'd almost given up on the game because Gvardiol had scored twice, and I didn't own him. And then on about the 14th hole, I looked over to him and said, I looked at my phone, took it out of the bag. I was waiting on a shot, and Van der Ven had scored, and that had obviously won Tottenham the game as well. So. That was a really nice moment, and I think that really saved my bench boost. I think, and obviously I had all the Bruno drama with him not playing, but then coming through with I think 2 assists on Wednesday night. But he only got given the one, and so bench boost. I think I did the proper bench boost. I didn't pack it with the likes of Haaland and other premium players. I just put my single game week players on there. I think I got 20 points off my bench boost, which is, I think, a bit meh. I don't think it's a smashed it.
Interesting.
I don't think it's a smashed it. But overall, I think it's still the legacy of the Game Week 35 wild card playing out. It's a very strong template that's out there. And so pleased, I mean, overall, in terms of where that leaves me, got up to 112k now. So that's 7 points off a top 100k finish. Wow. So that's given me at least something to shoot for in the last week. And so if I manage to recover and get a 5-figure rank for the season, that'll feel good, considering I was well down the ranks earlier in the season. It was 1 million at Christmas or whatever. So it's been a grind, but we're getting there. It's like turning up at the party when all the cheese blocks have gone, mate. Really,
it's gonna be a tense afternoon on Sunday, mate. Every goal, every clean sheet, every BPS, everything's gonna count, and it's gonna be good.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And well, I mean, enough about me, mate. How did you get on?
Well, this game week pretty much sums up my whole season in one game. If you could wrap my season, if someone asked me to describe what's your season been like in FPL, I could just show them this game week with a bit of commentary and say, ta-da, there it is. So I got to play the violin for this. For about the 16th time this season, I'll be playing the violin. But a comedy of errors and two further achievements unlocked, Rich. If I haven't unlocked enough already this season, 2 more unlocked in this absolute shit show of a season. A red arrow on a bench boost is one, which is it's reasonably common, but you do well to do it, don't you, with 4 extra players. So that's the first one. But the kind of other one was actual points lost playing the bench boost, if you can believe it. And it goes like this. So I took a -8 this week to get out 15 playing players. Netto out for Petrovic, which was an okay-ish move. But then I brought in Lewis Dunk, 2 points, yellow card, injured, out for game week 38. And I took your advice last week, Rich. I went a bit different. I went for Callum Wilson. I would say, if I'd have gone for Isaac, it would have been my other one. It wouldn't have mattered, the 4 points. So I combined 5 points off my 4 players of 8 fixtures. And I took a -8, so I've actually lost 3 points by doing that, which is pretty impressive. But not only that, I managed to take out... So I was taking out Neto, which was an alright one. I took out Malo Gusto, who scored 13 points for Dunk. And I took out Jean-Philippe Mateta, who also scored. So they got 19 points. So overall, for this game we've all been looking forward to for so long, for most of the season, I managed to get a 22-point loss somehow. But that's not all. That's not all. My 2 transfers in are now injured. Duncan Wilson. And to top it all off, I probably want Gusto and Mateta back for game week 38. They've both got plum home fixtures. So I don't swear very often, Rich. But as the kids say, fuck my life. And that is pretty much my season in a nutshell this season. But, we press ahead, Rich. We laugh. We'll be back next season for more pain. What did I start this season?
For more insight.
More insight. More insight. If you want to do well at FPL, watch the Green Arrow. Don't listen to Fergie. Anyway, with all that in mind, it's been a tough old season, and we're going to reflect a little bit, aren't we? We're going to look at game week 38 now, but obviously, there's only 1 week, so we're going to look at that now. We're going to look at a few punts, look at predicted points, and some tips on finishing the season off. But then we will have a look at our season, kind of the key, not kind of dissect it player for player, but a couple of the key points, a couple of the key moments in the season which veered us off on a different course. If I was the ship, I wouldn't have only steered kind of left to right. I steered downhill like the Titanic. But there
You've been to Baltimore recently, have you?
There is a moment where I kind of saw the iceberg. I saw it, and I thought, okay, let's go and give that a knock. And it all unraveled from there. But anyway, firstly, the spaffometer out for the final time this season. My bench was like, you can categorically put it as a bin. You can also put paper it, set it on fire. It's that much of a bin. Rich, you said you scored 20 points, and you said you felt a bit meh. I think 20 points is pretty decent. Be interesting to hear in the chat what you think, what Rich deserves, whether he smashed it or whether it is a meh. You have already had to smash it for your wild card, I would say.
Yeah, we've upgraded that, and we think we got that past the committee, didn't we? I think we managed to get that as upgraded to a smashed it, and obviously the run of green arrows continues mainly down to that, that timing of that wild card and the obvious template that came from it. But yeah, and I think given the only real move I made was to bring in Van der Ven, who did return, I think, 12 points or 13 points from the week. So that was good. It was a good transfer into bench boost. Obviously, keeping 2 frees for this week is also a good move. So if you want to make it a smashed it, then that's fine. It doesn't quite feel like that.
It's sort of in between. It sort of feels like a thumbs up, rather than a flame.
I'm happy to accept a mare. The only really out of all the chips, the only one that's really been wasted was the free hit in 29, which clearly was pretty much wasted by everybody. So it's I think it's probably a meh, but happy with a smashed it if you think I'm being hard on myself.
Let's hear the chat. I think it's kind of somewhere in between. Meh feels like but I think solid thumbs up is probably the emoji there. Maybe we need 5 kind of stages next season potentially.
Yeah, perhaps we'll come up with an upgraded machine next year.
We will, exactly. Good evening to everyone in the chat. Matt Stevens is in, says, who is your dark horse this week? We will touch on that now. I've got one for you there. Don't worry about that. James Clarke says, your season spaffed or just variance luck? We will chat a little bit after we've looked at Game Week 38 about our seasons. And Moberis is in 145 points into top 100k for the first time, 73k. Very, very well played, Moberis. Timed that absolutely perfectly. Well done. Colin is in. Tom is in. He said, at last time live, good evening. Immortal Technique, Wayne Patton, Cedric Levy, Tony Cunliffe, Eraser, Peter Clinch, my old headmaster, is in. He says, thanks for the whole season. Sean Kelly, FPL whoops. He said he had a red arrow on triple captain bench, who's and free hit this year. What a mad year! But he's managed to finish at 22k. Very well done there. Ben Coombs, Bale Zaru says, get to see us live. Mirza is in. Vincent says, Fergie, you legend. 428k is legendary. I'm not sure what kind of tone that is meant in, but fair. FPL Copycat is in. 5k BB of 124 points. FPL Copycat is in. Gavin, Colin Johnston, and Fatality is in. Thank you everyone for joining us as usual, and we've loved having you on with us all season. You really do bring, you really do bring the pod alive, with all your interaction and comments. We do appreciate it. Let's have a look then. Game week 38. Rich, first, in terms of we're not going to go through the fixtures. Just in terms of people where they are potentially in terms of their overall rank or their mini leagues and stuff. Have you got a few kind of tips or anything in terms of how to approach the game week first off?
Yeah, I think you've got to maybe veer away a little bit from the generic content, including our own this week. It's very important that you look at this week through the lens of your own team, and
100%.
the objectives that you want for the season. So if you are, if what will happiness look like at 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, if it's going to be beating your mate or winning your mini league, getting to a certain rank, that's personal to you, staying in a mini league that might have a relegation aspect to it, just make sure you focus your transfers on trying to hit that objective rather than necessarily getting the best transfer in that the content recommends or the best captain that the poll recommends, that kind of stuff. Because over a season, those kind of strategic and sensible and cautious moves can pay off. But this is the week for taking a few risks, and this is the week for making, either consolidating your position if you're at the top, or just going for it a little bit and enjoying yourself if you are chasing. So that would be the advice on how to approach 38 very much from a sort of team specific angle. We have had a lot of people bench boosting last week with very similar teams. I think something like 80% of the top 100k bench boosted last week, which means they're going to have teams made up of Newcastle, Tottenham, City, United, Brighton, Chelsea, all the doubling teams. Which our teams are going to be full of these guys. So, and most of them have all got good fixtures this week. So there's nothing to worry about. There's no need to tear the team apart to try and create the optimum 38 team. So it's just a couple of tweaks. And if you're lucky enough to have 2-3 transfers, then that may be enough to make up a small gain. If not, then we're into Hail Mary territory, and we'll cover that a little bit later on in terms of some of the real more outlandish punts you can take. But just looking at that list of fixtures, Fergie, I mean, clearly there are some big games to focus on. The title is still on the line. So Arsenal have a plum home fixture against Everton. City have almost a walk in the park against West Ham. And there are some other really tasty fixtures without so much to play for. A couple that I'll pick out. Liverpool
Absolutely.
with Jurgen Klopp's swan song at Anfield. Team's going to obviously want to give him a great send off. And then you've got, shout out to Adam. He's obviously not on with us anymore, but his team Villa, he's a proper football supporter. Adam just qualified for the Champions League. They probably had a really great night on Wednesday night. They've had a few beers. They've had a lot of midweek ties over recent weeks. Chances are they're probably a little bit on the beach, if Adam can forgive us for thinking that. And they're away to, potentially the form team in the league at the moment in Crystal Palace. So you've got Palace, Liverpool, Arsenal, City there as source of some great picks for the weekend. And it may be that quite a few of us have got one or two Arsenal spots, in our sides that we can fill. Certainly, as you've been doing, people have been offloading Crystal Palace assets in recent weeks because they didn't double.
Thanks for the reminder, mate.
And Liverpool and Liverpool too. So they're the ones that stand out to me. Plus, right down the bottom, if you still got your Spurs assets, they are away to Sheffield United, who I think are up to something like 110 goals conceded
Yeah.
or something. I mean, it's a huge amount of goals conceded.
And Spurs historically score a lot of goals on the last game of the season.
Last day team,
so.
yeah, indeed, absolutely. So there's some great fixtures out there for to attack, with your transfer. And I would say just one last thing, you want to make sure that those transfers you make, if you've only got one, make it a high upside one. Buy a player that's got a brace in him, that's got a chance of, a double figure haul. I'm seeing quite a bit of talk of, obviously we'll come to Edison in a minute, but he's injured, and so Ortega is, on the radar. But do you really want to use your one free transfer on a goalkeeper?
Yeah.
If you've got a spare one? I mean, it doesn't feel that exciting, does it? Unless it's to enable the cash for something like a Salah captaincy move or something like that. So it's an interesting one to think about. But yeah, stay high upside and low ownership if you're chasing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just to add, I think it's the first time in a while where relegation has been kind of sorted as well, haven't it? Before, so all three teams, Sheffield United, Burnley, and Luton. Well, I don't know how they're going to play, but they're not going to play in a low block, just trying to keep the score down, are they either? They're going to probably have a bit of fun, which it could be good for Spurs, Forest and Fulham, but it's mainly the Spurs, where they're not just going to sit back, Sheffield United, are they? So
no, exactly. They'll have a go, and that will allow Spurs to. Yeah,
exactly.
I think again that will be quite a high scoring game.
Yeah, I agree.
Probably the highest scoring game. Palace Villa is probably sticking out as probably being the most open fixture to me, I would think.
There's lots of these fixtures. I'd love a free hit this week would be really interesting, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be really, really interesting this week to have? But yeah, we spaffed ours, Rich, for about 19 points in game week 29. So, but let's have a look at a couple of punts. You've chucked a couple up for us, Rich. Just want to talk us through these picks.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to the Arsenal fixture, quite a few people who wildcarded, or even who didn't, carried through at least one Arsenal defender. Many, I've seen a lot of teams with, Saliba, White, Gabriel in them. Not all three, but often two of the three, which means quite a lot of people have got a spot in midfield for an Arsenal pick. So I think in this order, I would probably go at this stage Havertz, Saka, Trossard. That would just be my personal preference in the terms of that order. Havertz mainly because his ownership is lower than Saka, and you're more likely to realise the gains. If you're like me, you're just on the cusp of it being doable. It's not impossible, but you want, if Havertz goes off, you want that to most other teams not to have him, and so I think you've got more chance of gaining if you have Havertz over Saka, because most of Saka's ownership is perhaps down the ranks now a little bit, but there's still quite a heavy ownership. You've still got Saka, haven't you, in your team?
Yes, thanks. That's
exactly.
two jibes now, Rich. I'm counting. People like you selling Crystal Palace players, and people like you down the ranks who've got Saka. I'll wait for the hat trick, Rich.
Sorry, I actually didn't mean to do that.
I know, mate. I'm only playing, but I will wait for the hat trick.
But yeah, I would just think that Havertz is playing up front. He doesn't have penalties, so there is a counter argument, and the guy right in the front there, Elise, they don't have penalties, but they are possibly the more exciting upside pick. Elise is outselling Eze a huge multiple this week. However, Eze's on pens, Saka's on pens, so it certainly isn't a bad move to bring in the penalty takers here and just go out with seven attackers that all have penalties, which is quite possible this week. So yeah, Elise, I think you'll talk about him a little bit in a bit, but he's he's an exciting pick, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He's been
What
your
a
punt. He's been
footballer,
your
mate.
punt earlier in the season.
He was he was
So
he was he was on punt earlier in the season when he scored two. He'd been on a little bit of form, scored two, but then he got injured in like the 80th minute of the game that he'd already scored a couple of goals in. He looks some player. He really does. Yeah, and you've gone for Trossard. He's a man in form as well. He's keeping Marcelli out of the team at the moment, and he's looking good.
yeah, I think so. I think he seems. I think he scored 4 in 6 or
Yeah,
4 in 5,
yeah.
and certainly I think he'll start. I think the team will stay the same for Arsenal on Sunday. The one drawback is obviously that if he doesn't get first half returns, he's possibly only got 20 minutes after half time before he'll get hooked for Martinelli. But that may well be enough. And similarly, his ownership is very low, and also he's cheap enough to allow you a couple of million if you're coming off a Bruno or another player or like De Bruyne or Bruno or something to go and do something else for the second transfer. So that's another reason to go for Trossard. And then at the back of the room, and they haven't been at the back of the room very often, we've got the two Liverpool talisman picks. They're very expensive, but given some of the moves you can make, they are gettable. You can get to them with two transfers possibly, and definitely get to them with a hit. And we've got Salah and Trent. So I'd like to know what you think about Hail Marys on those two.
I think they're well, especially Salah, but I think they're fantastic picks. Like I said last week, I thought Wolves were desperately poor against Man City, sort of in between the lines, just allowing them to turn and stuff, and that for Liverpool as well will just feed right into their hands. So obviously Klopp's last game, potentially Salah's last game. Who knows on that one, but the emotion is going to be high. Wolves got nothing to play for, and yeah, in terms of a Hail Mary, I think a captaincy on Salah could be, what a farewell if he gets two or three returns on that. In that
Yeah.
one, it could be massive. Have to fancy Haaland, obviously, but yeah, and Trent similarly. It's been on form every time he gets the ball outside the box. It's just scary. So I would just add that Gakpo has started the last three. And while he hasn't had a fantastic season, if you're playing number 9 up front for Liverpool in these sorts of games, you're going to get chances, which what Darwin's had all season. You just haven't managed to put him away. Whereas Gakpo is, has shown a little bit of form. So if you look for something different, but can't afford Salah, for example, Gakpo could be again, it's different. It's different. It's not something you'd normally do, but you're looking for points out of the norm. Gakpo could be a decent one as well. So
Yeah. If you could have anybody, you could say you would one free transfer next week, and you could bring in one player, forget the money and forget affording it, and forget who you're losing. Who would you pick?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I think I'd go for Salah, but I honestly think De Bruyne wouldn't be that far behind. I know he picked him a knock, but he said he said he's going to be fine. But West Ham have just been absolutely dreadful recently. De Bruyne has been superb, and again, he's a lowish. In terms of context of the game, he's a lowish pick as well. Obviously Haaland is the one which we'll just ignore in terms of Haaland, but. Salah or De Bruyne for pure kind of output in terms of points, I think would be great. But I don't want to spoil my differential pick. But there is a player which we'll touch on in 5 or 10 minutes, whose points record this season playing at home is absolutely insane. It's one of the highest, if not the highest, in the league, and he's low owned as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
What about yours,
if
Rich?
you're bringing in, yeah, I mean, I think we're very often influenced by price, aren't we? Price of a
Yeah.
player. And it took us a while to cotton on that Cole Palmer was a perfectly good captaincy choice, but not until about game week 30 when he started to score 3 and 4 in a game. it's just because he was initially 4.9 million, and we just thought he was the bench fodder. He was just the eighth attacker, and now he's up until last week he was a Golden Boot candidate, and he still continues to score and assist in matches. So, perhaps the Salah argument is there, and it's only based on his past reputation and his current price. On form, he definitely, I don't think he's nowhere near.
No, I agree with that.
The pick. I'd be bringing in, assuming I don't own him, I'd probably bring in an Arsenal mid before him, just because how well they're playing, how good they are at home, and how much of a gap it will be if you don't have an Arsenal attacker for the weekend, because you've got these fixtures here: City, Arsenal, Liverpool, arguably Palace. There's going to be a lot of goals in those games. You possibly can't cover. Well, you can't cover all of it, but you can maybe get someone from each match. You can get an Arsenal mid and a Palace mid in, and then maybe take a hit for a Liverpool player. But it's going to be difficult to cover all of them. You just got to say where is the 5-0 here? Where is the 6-0? I think it's at Arsenal and City. So making sure you've got the best 3 City and making sure you've got the best 3 Arsenal is probably still the best approach, especially if you're up the ranks, if you're up the top and you're looking to consolidate. So again, it really does depend on where you are. I think this chart here is more for people chasing.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Let's just have a look at the predicted points for the week. A lot of the players, actually Havertz is fourth in this list overall, interestingly, but Haaland 8.7, Salah 7.5, Foden 6.8, Havertz 6.2, Palmer 6.2, Eze 6.1. So he's really high as well. You mentioned the Palace picks. Son 6.1, Isak 5.8. Tony is quite high, even though I don't think he's scored in his last 4 or 5 games. But they do play Newcastle, who obviously defensively are very shaky. Jackson 5.4.
Well, Brentford as well. Brentford have been really useful at home as well recently.
Yeah,
have a lot of home wins. Have been going really well, and it could be Tony's last game.
It could be. Yeah, you're right. Expect some goals in that one. Actually, expect like a 2-2 maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
Nicholas Jackson 5.4, Gvardiol 5.4, Odegaard. It's the first time we've seen some defenders in this list. Actually, there's 3, and it's because obviously you've got those kind of plum home games, but Gvardiol, Trent, and Gabriel are all in this list of top 20 there. Just a couple more down the bottom. Saka is, I think he's currently flagged, which is why he's so low. Watkins, Elise, Wood, and Trossard as well. So they're the predicted points for game week 38 there. Yeah, Eze very, very high on that list, isn't he? Interesting. And
yeah, he is. It's actually
and
quite
Havertz
surprising
as well.
Yeah, very much so. Those are those are potentially my moves, Havertz and Eze. So that's good to see them if that hub predictor is true. So I've just got a question for you on Gvardiol, right? You've got him, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that ship has sailed, or would you consider, given that Ederson is out, there is still an opportunity if you have 2 free transfers to flip that keeper? So go Ederson to Raya and then bring in Gvardiol for the last week, who is effectively like playing as an extra City attacker, isn't he? So
I would get him in, mate. If you can, if you've got, I know you talk about potentially going for differentials, but your team is good enough anyway, right? You'd probably be taking out a good player, especially midfield. I'm guessing you'd be taking out a good player for a good player. You're taking out something like Gordon or or something like that, who in their own right, he's he looked superb last night. So I would consider getting him in. He's just he's one of those players. He's not quite sort of Marcos Alonso-esque, but he's suddenly just kind of, he seems to have like flipped a switch, haven't he? He suddenly turned into the player Man City thought they were buying, and he looks incredibly dangerous. And that finish last weekend was fantastic, and he can bang him in from range as well. So, and I'm guessing, just because of where you are positionally as well, if he does do something, and you haven't got him, that could
Yeah,
kind of
I think
damage your rank.
that's in the top 100k, so it's an area of exposure.
Yeah, it is.
But it's one game, and you're thinking, well, I've already
Of
got. If
course.
you look at your defense, I've got 2 Arsenal defenders and Pedro Porro against Sheffield United. So does that mean playing 4-4-2 and therefore dropping 2 attackers to the bench, which isn't ideal, or dropping Porro, who's got a perfectly good bangable fixture himself?
Yes.
So it's all about the
point.
team need. And so I just, that may not be people out their situation. They may have a Dan Burn as their third defender, in which case it's probably worth getting Guardiola in if you have a spot. So yeah, interesting.
There's
That
the
is the scary
There's
one.
the hat trick. I've got Dan Burn as well as Dunk and Sonesi.
Oh, no. I'm just dropping these in there completely innocently.
I know, but but this is, again, it's the tail of my season. You've kind of gone, there's players who've still got this, and I'm there thinking, yep, I still got him. Yep, still got him.
If you're one of those numpties with Dan Burn.
You're basically reeling my team off, Rich, in front of me. Best captain this week. Again, it's down to risk appetite, right? Haaland is obviously safe. They're playing a very poor West Ham. They're playing to win the title. Haaland is the man. But if you're 15, 20 points behind in your mini league, who'd be your second pick, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think if your gap is 20 points, then go Salah. And especially if you don't think your rival will get him in without a hit. Look at your rival's team, see how much money he's got in the bank, see how many moves he's got to make, given his injuries to get to Salah. And if it looks like he won't go there or she won't go there, then get Mo in and captain him and go against it, because he has the potential to put in a 20-pointer himself, doubled for 40, and that's 40 points gain on your rival, plus probably a big chunk against your rank tier as well. So I do think he's a good option. I've got a combination transfer I want to talk through with you later on when we come to transfers. I'm still not written off Salah. I may well go there just so I can enjoy the last afternoon, because I think they'll show. I haven't seen the TV lineup, but I think they'll probably show the Liverpool games a third game just as a tribute to Klopp. Maybe
I don't think they are. I might be wrong, but I don't think they are. No.
Okay.
I think I saw something earlier on Twitter say that they're not showing it, but
they normally show three, don't they?
Yeah.
3 live games. Yeah. Okay.
Fergie is a punt for game week 38. Obviously, this is just a 1 game week punt. Player I've picked to say is a player being really picked him out early in the season when he wasn't kind of hyped. But his stats this season, he's had 18 appearances. It was 18 appearances. He's had 10 goals and 5 assists, which is pretty impressive. It's only because he's had limited minutes is why he's not sort of high on everyone's list. 51 shots in those 18 games, 30 shots in the box, 8 big chances created. Fantastic player. He's going to have a hell of a career. But the stat which stuck out for me most was courtesy of FPL Sui on Twitter, actually. This player's points per 90 at home this season is 11.21. Wow. Back fit now, he's playing, and he is going to be a sensational player going forward. But Michael Elise is going to be my punt for game week 38, averaging 11.21.
What's his ownership, mate?
That's a good question. I'll take a look now. I haven't got it in front of me. Have a look now while we're on there. Just can you sing a song, Rich, or something as well? I'll look at that. It's logged. Of all the time to do it, it's logged me out to do it. But we'll
don't worry, we'll come back. Yeah. Someone in the chat will tell us his ownership anyway. That's all right.
But yeah, what do you think of that, Rich?
I know it's not that high. I think it's great. Yeah, I mean, I think he's about 5 times as many transfers in as Eze. Just hasn't. There's a rumor that he's someone he might get the pens. Certainly, if Eze's off the pitch, he's probably on the pens. But he does get hooked off sort of around 70 minutes, but I do think he's a very exciting pick, and so I'm not surprised people are
2.6%.
Wow,
you don't get much. Wow. You don't get much lower than that. And just in terms of his minutes, I was having a look this morning. Actually, just his minutes. So after injury, he played 16, then 68. For the last 4 games, 85, 90, 85, 88. So he's well in the 80s. He plays a full game
Okay.
when he's fit. So I think that he could be the man this week. I really, really do. If he can bang against the Villa side, as we said, who've had a fantastic season, finished the Champions League, but they're exhausted, right? They were out of form, not looking great. They just qualified for the Champions League, as you say. They're probably all out in the week. Palace are just on form, and when Elise and Eze are in the same team, yeah, I think this week he could be the one. I really, really do.
Yeah, very good.
So we'll just have a look at our seasons now, just briefly. Rich, got your kind of dashboard up first. So if you want to view your own dashboard, go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. You can sign up. When you're logged in, then you see your dashboard. This is just a section of it. You get all other things like, you got your watch list and your players you should be transferring in and X, Y, and Z. But I think this just gives a really nice view of the overall season, kind of rank across the season. So, Rich, you just want to talk us through kind of the 2 or 3 sort of points in the season and the things you're thinking about when you reflect.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whatever that is, that linear graph there, it shows the importance of getting off to a good start. I think, and that a number of us, had a good first week. Put it in the top million in the first week, which is all you really could ask for. But then after that, it was a real big dipper of a roller coaster ride for 10 weeks, and found myself at 2.5 million before the first wild card came out, and from then on, I think if I can take away a learning or a reflection, I've underestimated how hard it is to gain back lost ground. It has really felt very difficult. I don't know what we put that down to. I think you probably put it down to just the availability of good content across the board. It's not, you don't have to pay necessarily for that content. There's a lot of content out there that's free on YouTube, on the internet. You can find out good summaries of, sensible players to buy, sensible players to pick, people sharing their teams. There's lots of easily available information, and as you said, I think before we went on air, the size of the engaged player base is
Incredible.
much higher than it was, and are playing to a level that is much better than it was before. So one, you introduce a bit of being on the wrong side of a bit of variance there a few times, some brutal swings that don't go against you, and it's very difficult to shoot back up the ranks after those first weeks. So get off to a decent start, recognize that there's a very high number of engaged players out there, is just one way to end the season.
Nicholas Jackson and Marcus Rashford spring to mind.
They do, and the fixtures, if you remember back all the way back to sort of September, October, the fixtures for Chelsea and Man United. Chelsea, remember, who'd spent £1 billion last year on players and were spending whatever it took to bring a player in, that another club wanted, like Caicedo, Raheem Sterling, all these players who just got such amazing, potential, but they weren't. They weren't able to perform. We were all saying, "Oh, who's almost assumptively saying, well, who's your third Chelsea player going to be?"
That's right. That's right.
And they weren't showing any form whatsoever. And I got sucked into that process. Yeah, and similarly, loaded up on Bruno and Marcus Rashford as a double and persevering with them all the way through to sort of game week 9-10, when you could see that both those teams were significantly underperforming. I mean, again, so my second point here is, when something obvious emerges, act on it. That doesn't just mean get a player who's hit form and is a bandwagon. That means if Chelsea and Man United look rubbish, get rid of them, get off them quickly. Don't give them, because the old way of playing would say, give players a chance to return. That's what I would, I would coach in terms of, you buy a player, give him several weeks to return. But actually, if the team just looks out of sorts,
Really good
and there
point.
are other teams that are off to a good start, then get off the crap team and onto the good team. And another key area that I was slow to get on was a double Arsenal defence, because I got caught up in that whole Saliba, Gabriel debacle on the first
Yeah.
game of the season, and almost that probably prevented me or stopped me from buying both of them, because we never knew where we stood with Gabriel, and I just kept
He
him
missed a
all the
couple of
way through.
games,
He did.
Gabriel,
He
didn't
started
he?
missing games, but I kept him all the way through. I've never sold him. I've had him all
Yeah,
season, and he's turned out to probably be arguably the best
yeah,
of them
yeah.
all. But it took till mid-season to realise that. By which time the majority of managers who got it right had doubled up on Arsenal. So I doubled up on wildcard 35. Great, but that ship has already yielded a dozen clean sheets to the field. So that's another learn. I'm just being really, really honest. And then the final bit is really a more personal one to me. I've been playing for 18 seasons. Clearly I love the hobby we have, the community we have, and the game we have. But you know, I've never had a season where I've had to, you know, pay more attention to my own my own mental state, and how that's been negatively impacted by some of the things that have gone on. And I think we still can underestimate the impact that FPL can have negatively on people's lives. I don't just mean the player, I mean those people that are around them, so people who are important to us, family, friends. I know that my mood has rubbed off on other people, and we think we play this harmless game, but actually it's a highly addictive game. And when you get into any addiction, it can have its issues, and it can have its negative issues. So I'm really going to spend some time reflecting on what I can do differently next season to manage that. I'm not going to give the game up. I love producing content. I love doing what I do, but it has taken its toll because I care about it so much, and I just want to manage that better,
Yeah,
because there are aspects of the game that I don't like these days. I don't like the fact that I've got to spend every Saturday morning looking out for a team league and a piece of information that is you almost feel you have to get the edge, or to
absolutely.
not make a mistake, because the downside of not knowing that piece of information, even if it's false, as with the Foden thing, it turned out to be false the other week. You then act on that one person leaking that one piece of information, and that does affect your mood if you fall the wrong side of it, and you've suddenly you've got someone out there who's got that piece of information, you trust it, you act on it, and then it doesn't turn out to be true. That's one thing. And then there's just not getting the information at all because you were
Yeah,
watching the wrong podcast and it got leaked on another one. So now we've got to devote half our lives to playing fantasy football, whereas it used to be a 10 minutes a week thing for some people. So look, I mean, these are just some of the things that have affected me, and if they've affected me, they've definitely affected other people out there too. And it's about developing your own coping mechanisms, if that makes some
yeah.
sense.
No, it does, and it's easy for people. Whenever I see anyone talking kind of seriously about how FPL kind of impacts them, you see a lot of people like, "Oh, come on, it's only a game, right?" But to some people, it's not just a game. It's a part of their life, right? And it is. Everyone's got their passions and their hobbies. And our passion is not just, it's not just a hobby. It's not just something, if I'm trying to think of something like golf, for me as an example, is a hobby. I enjoy it, but it doesn't kind of dominate my life. I go up, and if I play well, I play well. If I don't, I don't. But I come away. I don't really care. Whereas that's a passion for some people, and how they're playing again kind of it impacts them, because they
Mm.
spend a lot of their spare time, free time, thinking about it and doing stuff. It just so happens that FPL for yourself, and fantasy football kind of broadly for me is something that's been massive part of my life for the last sort of 25 years, and it does impact. When you get, I've seen how I've spoken to people, spoken to my kind of family at times, 5:30 on a Saturday, if something hasn't gone my way, I know I'd be in a mood, and
Mm.
I don't want to be in a mood. I don't plan to be in a mood. At times you just can't help it. And I used to make a bit of a joke that the dog used to watch the football results up by the telly to know where he's sleeping that night, sort of thing. Because if things didn't go my way, he'd
Exactly.
kind of lope out to the
Exactly.
back garden. Obviously I'm
Yeah.
joking there, but it is, it is interesting, and for those who are going to say, because they will, oh, you take it too seriously, everyone has their own passions, and there will be things in your own life that mean as much to, as much to you as FPL means to Rich. So just kind of think on that a bit first.
Very much so.
Yeah, just moving on to mine briefly. I think I've come to realize that my kind of FPL record before I started creating content was pretty decent. I think I had four or five top 20k finishes on the trot and a top 1k finish. And since I've started creating content, I think that my record has been absolutely abysmal. I think I do have too much FOMO. I think that I'm very kind of concerned about making moves out of the blue, which could potentially be the catapult and the kind of catalyst to my season. I think at times, and I've started. I don't know why. I never used to do this. I've started looking at single game weeks in isolation. It used to be my biggest pet peeve of kind of FPL players and creators. This whole, and it's funny. Our whole podcast entitled "The Green Arrow," and I ask you every week, what color is your arrow? But it doesn't matter really. It doesn't matter what color your arrow was this week. But I think sometimes we, and definitely I, get so thing on trying to get a green arrow that week that potentially I jeopardize future weeks. And I do that. And that kind of leads on to the next one about the wildcard sort of timings and chip use. I mean, my wildcard I used in game week 10 was followed by two pretty big red arrows, and my wildcard in 24 led to another green arrow. I mean, goodness me, how like
another red.
I think I've been sucked into the thing of, of the old style of play again, and what I'm sure we'll talk more about this in pre-season as we lead into the new season. But I do think FPL has just changed, and I think that the wild card, especially the first one, I don't think we need to look at anymore as this transformative chip. It's not something remember like fixture swings and completely change your team around. We're all good enough players nowadays to know the players we should have in for now and for the and for the medium term, right? So I've seen lots of players this season play their wild cards to their detriment, including myself, but just not being transformative. And I've also seen some players who've used them in potentially game week 18, 19 or 20 or whenever the last week is, just make a couple of tweaks around the edge just to tidy up their team, just to get that budget 4 million defender, maybe upgrade a couple of players. But that's the kind of play which has done well this season. The second one is different, obviously, because of the chips, which we're kind of yet to see how the how the FA Cup change is going to affect the chips next year. But I need to definitely start looking at it more of not looking at it as such a transformative chip, but just kind of if I'm driving along a road, I see it as you're slowly starting to kind of veer off slightly. And what I'll do is, instead of just kind of bump the edges back and kind of move it into the middle by tidying things up, I'll just try and scrap that car, let's buy a brand new, and that'll drive me straight. And by doing that in game week 24, I sold Saka and Watkins. Saka got back-to-back braces. Watkins got 2 in game week 25, wherever as well.
Stuck a 19-pointer in the week
and
you sold him,
and that completely derailed my season. Instead of just kind of tidy it up and just chips in general.
I think the other one I remember for you was this obsession with getting Hwang just before I went on holiday. Do you remember that one? That was like, I've got to have Hwang. I've got to have him. And he was a Wolves player coming back from injury or whatever. It's like, what are you doing? You already had 2 Wolves players.
Do you mean that's when I had triple Wolves, triple Burnley, and triple Luton? Talk about overthinking. Sorry, Bournemouth. Talk about overthinking. Overthinking the game. Just get Saka. Just get Saka and Watkins, and you'll be fine. And I know. That's it.
Yeah, I know.
And that and again, that kind of it leads on to my third point there, but about butterfly effect, and I couldn't recover. So for those listening to the pod around about game week 24, 25, Liverpool obviously had the double, didn't they, in 25? And in game week 24, I made a transfer early-ish in the morning on the Saturday. Now the double for 25 hadn't been announced, but I'd made a transfer because my son had football. So I just wanted to kind of go and enjoy the football, not be, kind of looking on my phone. So I made the transfer like 8:30 in the morning, thinking that there wasn't going to be a double in 25. And I think I brought in Gordon or took out Gordon or something like that. But I didn't go in on Liverpool. And because of that, then but then the double game was announced like half an hour later.
You dropped the double game week on Saturday morning.
And I'd already made my transfer, and I didn't have any Liverpool players. Or was it Chelsea they were playing? I can't think. But whoever it was, I had nothing prepared, and I was so angry that it dropped after I'd made my transfer that I felt I had to wildcard the following week. I felt I had to avoid the FOMO of the Liverpool and kind of whatever else. So, but the butterfly effect from that, the lead on from that, I wildcarded when I took out Saka and Watkins, and it means I could try to target game week 28. I was almost forced a free hit in 29. And I was just scrapping clinging on my fingernails the rest of the season.
And then no wild card the other side.
And no wild card the other side. So, kind of looking ahead to next season, just need to be a lot calmer, I suppose, and just take it a week at a time, and just chill out.
As well, you play a multi-format. You're a multi-format, elite player at some of the other formats. You've won one of the damn games. You've been a Telegraph stalwart for years. You've won the Sun game. You're good at Sky. You've won prizes at Sky. You're an excellent fantasy football manager. FPL appears to be your weakest discipline if you're a decathlete, doesn't it? And that's really where you can maybe bring in some of the expertise you've got from the other games.
Yeah. Just need to chill out a bit, I think, with it, and start. Yeah. I tried to force it, I think, and it's funny because in the other three games are all about patience and discipline. That's the whole being of those games. So just to give everyone a flavour of what kind of a thing of the other games, you get 40 transfers, say, over a whole season, and you can just use them from game week 1. So as you can imagine, the urge to use those transfers early and make gains, the whole skill of them is holding on to your transfers. And I do them well reasonably well in those games. In this one, I can't, and I just need to work out how to do it. But so some reflections in the chat. Rico says, "I appreciate the candid talk. It's good to talk about this stuff every now and then." Ellis says, "At the end of the day, it's only a game, of course. We're only human, completely normal to feel crap. Stay positive." Agree with that, Ellis. Thanks for that. Kelvin says Wolves had many VAR decisions against them. I think that's referring to something else. FPL copycat. My best overall rank of the season was in game week 20. It's been a slow and steady decline from 132 to 150k. Yeah, it's been tough, haven't it? It's been a grind. It's been a war of attrition. But
it's been a real grind.
I would also say, so sorry, just to touch on. I know I feel like I'm whining a bit, but I have agreed this. I've enjoyed this season. I've enjoyed it from a pure FPL view. Do you know I enjoy the challenge? I don't want it to be easy. I don't want it.
Oh no!
I don't want to
be easy.
Have Haaland captain every week and see massive greens every week. What's the point? That's not the game. I've actually enjoyed that it's been really tough, and that my decisions have reflected my rank. That's what I like. So I think I'm coming across like I'm whining a touch. I'm not whining. I whine about my performance.
I don't think so.
I'm not whining about the game because I think it's been really good this year.
It's just become. It has been. There just seems to have been more swings away. That have really brutal impact of making decisions at certain times. We've all owned Watkins. We've all owned Saka. If you haven't owned them at certain times, they have punished you. We have had structures that have given us bench headaches, and when you put like Phil Foden on the bench and he scores a hat trick,
that as well.
Brutal. I had that. It's brutal decisions that you make over the logical person to bench will come up and return double figures. Players you don't own or have come off temporarily will hurt you while you don't own them. And these are not things that just happen to me or you. They're things that are happening to people, who are logged into this this podcast. And it just seems to be happening, more than it used to. The impact of variance, particularly in free hit weeks. The contrast between those two free hit weeks was absolutely massive. So we had, what was it, 7 or 8 weeks of game week 29 versus game week 34. I mean, they couldn't have been further apart. A week where the average was 12 versus the average was 120 odd or whatever. It was absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy.
It was.
So it really is. You it's really easy to say, but you don't, especially after I've just been hard on myself, is don't be too hard on
Yeah, of
yourself.
course.
At the end of a season, because if you make logical, sensible decisions, you should ultimately get rewarded. And next season, we've had Ben on a few times. He's going to have far less to do because there are not going to be as many blank and double game weeks due to the changes in FA Cup. We're only going to get double game weeks. So when there's a weather postponement or an act of God or a pandemic or a monarch dies, something like that, we're the only times we're going to get double game weeks created. So we should have a harder game that rewards more
Yeah,
patient
agree.
managers.
Agree.
That's what I think we'll have. But although we always say we want a non-asterisk season, it's always asterisk for
It
some sort
is.
of
Yeah.
reason, isn't it? And yeah, I'm sure by early July, Fergie will be voraciously looking
Oh,
forward
I can't
to
wait
next
already.
season again,
As I say,
and
it's not been
raring to go.
it's not been. I've really enjoyed this season. I think there's been a massive variety of players available for almost all season. The difference in teams we saw. Especially through the game week 30s. When Mateta was coming into teams, and all the front threes were different. Midfield and defense were, there was a pool of maybe 8 midfielders and 6 defenders, but massive variety of teams, massive different strategies, which made the game really interesting. You saw big swings in mini leagues everywhere. There wasn't just sort of, I think last year, the year before, when me, you and Adam were scoring, like, I would score 60, you scored 61, Adam scored 62. The next week, again, we're all within a point of each other because our teams are more or less exactly the same as this year. It's been really different. This been good. Let's touch on our teams then, Rich, for game week 38. Got your team now on screen. Looking good. What's your plan for the final game week?
Yeah, it is looking strong. I mean, we found out this afternoon that Edison is going to miss the last 2 games of the season. So I think I would have played him over Petrovic despite the injury doubt, but now he's been ruled out. At least I've got a playing keeper that will start in Petrovic at home to Bournemouth. That's fine. Gordon has also been flagged, so he got brought off around 80th minute yesterday, I think. But I'm not sure of the extent of his injury yet. But he was probably the logical sub anyway, if you look at that front 8, and it's a very template front 8. It will look very similar to the majority of wildcard front 7s, certainly. So that's it. I mean, until yesterday, everyone was thinking they were going to have to sell Bruno Fernandes. I don't think you have to sell Bruno now. He's obviously back playing and could do perfectly well against Brighton. But the clear opportunity with my team is to bring in an Arsenal asset, as I only have 2, and it's tempting to get Havertz or Saka in as the high upside Arsenal pick, but that only leaves really you almost like want to leave it at that, because if you, as to your point earlier, if I make another move, I say I bring in Eze or an Elise in for Gordon, which I could also do, who do I bench? Who do I bench out of Isak and Jackson, who've got form and fixtures to go with that? I mean, I think arguably you might want to bench Isak away to Brentford versus Jackson at home to Bournemouth. I mean, it becomes difficult if you go for a 3-5-2 setup. The alternative is to go for, I want to run a combination transfer by you. So Ederson to Raya, okay, Isak to Mateta, Fernandes to Salah.
Cool. Wow. I
-4.
I don't think I'd be doing that, mate.
No,
And it's purely
too
because
risky.
you're taking out Bruno, who transformed Man United last night, and Isak. They're both both players on form, and for a hit, that's not for me. But maybe
Not
it's my
optimal, is it?
maybe it's my FOMO kicking in, Rich, and
Yeah.
you know, I just think I don't think there's enough potential upside. Don't get me wrong, Salah and Mateta, you know, we both said could do very well, but there's always lots of goals on the final day. If Man United score 2 goals or 3 goals against Brighton, you'd expect Bruno to be somewhere involved. He was incredibly unlucky last night to only get the 1 assist. If Newcastle go to Brentford and score a couple of goals, you'd expect Isak to be involved. So I don't see the upside there personally. Like, but you know, as I say, look at my season, Rich. You do what you want.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's only because that's the only sort of hit that I thought to get to Salah, because I can't get to Salah without a hit unless I sell Son, and that would be even more suicidal to sell Son away to Sheffield United, wouldn't it? So really, it's about, you know, almost like you've got to decide who you bench first before you decide how, because spending the two free transfers could be quite tricky.
You've got a good team. Yeah. Interestingly, your recommended transfer for this week, or transfers, you got 2. Edison to Raya and Van de Ven to Gvardiol. They're your recommended transfers this week, which is we are.
That's the Arsenal City prioritization, and then that means benching Pedro Porro away to Sheffield United. So I mean, whichever way you look at it, you're benching a high upside player there, aren't you? So tricky one. Tricky one to spend them both.
As much as we hate the team leagues, Rich, they could be very, very valuable come quarter to 3.
They will.
No, sorry, quarter past 2, is it, on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, that's right. These will not be early transfers, but we'll be in the pub together. I think watching this.
Hopefully with
phones.
Signal.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully with Signal. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, any of those options, but yeah, Arsenal and Palace is where I'm looking. Eze Elise,
nice.
Saka, Havertz, you know, I think there are improvements, but yeah, now the pressure's off with Bruno. It really is difficult to know. I might end up just benching one of the players I transfer in, unless we get leaks on all the teams. I don't think I'd buy Saka unless I heard confirmation he was starting. I think I know he's one of these players like Bruno who keeps. People say, "Oh, he'll always play." Well, that wasn't true of Bruno, was it? Last weekend, he didn't always play. So imagine you bring in Saka as your big move, and then he doesn't start.
Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely agree. Definitely. We just had a reminder in the chat. You know, I clean forgot as well, and this is why FPL Freddy. I wildcarded into Liverpool, didn't I? In double game week 25, and he just reminded me, Jota and Darwin. Jota was injured by half time, and Darwin did last much longer. They both went off injured, didn't they, in that first game in the double game?
Yeah, after scoring a brilliant goal. Yeah,
incredible. I clean forgot about that. Yeah, funny stuff. Well, funny-ish. Looking at my team, it's not too bad. It's not tremendously exciting. I can either play Petrovic or Vicario. I don't know who I want to really play there. Neither are very inspiring because I expect both to concede.
I think they'll both concede.
I think they'll both concede. I'll probably go for Vicario, maybe just for saves. I don't know. We'll see. Gabriel, Gvardiol. Now I've got a choice of Dunk. Well, Dunk's not playing, is he? Senesi, who's away to Chelsea, and Burns away to Brentford. They're not very excited. I got to play one of them. Foden, Palmer, Son, Saka. Quite happy to have Saka this week. I've got Garnacho as my 5th midfielder. I've got 2.1 in the bank. I'm not sure how much Elise is. And I've got Haaland and Solanke and Wilson.
Your team's easier to do things with, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because I got... That's the hatful, Rich. That's the 4th goal. And the reason why is because it's an absolute shower of shit with so much opportunity to improve. Garnacho to Elise probably means I'd have to...
you absolutely got... I mean, Wilson and Solanke, I mean, yeah, you could do all sorts of things with that.
I did Mateta to Wilson for a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you get to... How many transfers have you got?
One.
One. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I got.
Well, I think you could do Garnacho to Elise, your punt, so that would be fine, wouldn't it? And then you just leave Wilson to rot on the bench and play Solanke away at Chelsea. He's probably going to get something, but then you can you'll have to play Dan Burn, won't you, against Brentford if Dunk is out. This isn't great, but he hasn't done anything in the other two games anyway. So
I don't think defenders are really.
I'd probably get a Palace guy. You've got Arsenal covered.
So.
2.1 won't get you. I mean, do you not want to take a hit, or are you not bothered?
Not particularly. I might take one. I'm definitely not doing more than that.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson to Mateta and use the cash for another biggie.
Yeah,
I would say get Havertz in for Garnacho and Wilson to Mateta, something like that. Drop Solanke, do that.
That'd be a good shout.
Yeah,
I recommend a transfer Dunk to White. Bit of a bore. It's a sound move. It's a bit boring.
Not on the last week of the
boring,
season.
So I don't think we're doing that. But that is my recommended transfer. Just to say, the Hub AI team, which is completely obviously managed by the AI, which has significantly improved as the season has gone on as well. Has beaten us both, Rich. And unsurprisingly, it will have beaten us both. It's absolutely flying.
It's been running one place ahead of me in the Hub Team League, hasn't it? Yeah. But I don't think I can catch it now. Which is I've managed always set my heart on beating the AI every year, but this year I think it's got the better of me. Yeah. Next
year, mate, it's going to be 10 times harder to beat because the upgrades we've got coming over the summer are going to be absolutely insane. So yeah. But that is it for us for this week and for this season. We'd like to thank everyone who's joined in the chat. Obviously, not just this evening, but all season. I mentioned it earlier. I'll say it again. Your interaction, the fun we have, your support, continued support, and and nice comments and feedback and everything are the reason why we like to stream. We love streaming because it's just so much fun with all you in. We really, really do appreciate you. And thanks to those who watch it back, watch the YouTube every single week. Those listening on the podcast, your support is very, very much appreciated. It really, really is. We'd like some feedback ahead of next season, how we can improve the show. Obviously, Adam, had to leave due to work reasons halfway through. We've had a couple of guests on. We've done a few ourselves, just the two of us. But we would like your feedback on what we can do for next season to improve the show as a whole as well. We tried to cut it down to around an hour. This one is obviously a little bit longer. It's the final one. We've done a bit of season review, but we feel like an hour is it's probably about right. Anything in terms of the features, anything in terms of the production quality, any feedback on anything would be really, really welcome. We obviously want to make this show your go-to show every single week. We try and make it entertaining with intelligent FPL chat from Rich's side anyway. But yeah, any feedback at all would be greatly appreciated. And thank you, Rich. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing our journey through the whole season. Where can people get hold of you?
Thank you, Fergie. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Echo everything you said. Really love being part of this community, and our interactions through the hub, through social media, etc. Really do make it fun. Despite some of the challenges that the game gives us, I still do love this game, and I hope we have many more seasons playing together. So I'm on @Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter, and see you guys next season. If not at the weekend, we've got a hub meet, I think, up in London. Not just a hub meet, but also I think there's an FPL meet in London for the wider community. So maybe see some of you there in the evening. Thanks very much indeed for listening.
Indeed. My handle on Twitter is @everfh_Ferg. You can find me and everything at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if we can ask you for one thing if you have enjoyed our content all season, if you could just go on to your podcast platform of choice, leave us 5 stars and a couple of comments. It helps us absolutely massively. We would really, really appreciate that. We'll be back in pre-season to look ahead to game week 1. In the meantime, we hope you have a great Game Week 38. Have a fantastic summer, and may all your beers be cold. Good night, all.